Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gemology for Schmucks. My name is Peter Nelson, and I'm here to guide you in everything you need to know about gemstones. I just recently got done cutting this sparkly green gem right here, and it's actually featured in another video. But I just wanted to take this moment to recap some of the things I learned from it or was reminded of in it that are also good for you to know. Now, this right here is synthetic green corundum. Yes, I did test it before making this video. And synthetic corundum starts off its life like this. This is a flame fusion boule. You can thank the French for that name. For me, it looks nothing like bread, but I'll leave them to their culture. Now, synthetic corundum can come in many different colors, and actually synthetic spinel, which this is, also comes in the same way because it's produced in the same way, just with a different chemical structure. But anyway, I got a piece from a friend of mine. We traded. I gave some ruby, I got some green. Why? Because I've got way too much of the ruby stuff and none of this kind of green. Supposedly, they don't make it anymore. Either way, I thought it was cool. So I cut it, and it was a long and torturous process because cutting synthetic corundum always is. But what I did was I cut the crown first with the largest face size I could possibly get out of that piece of boule. But the fact of the matter is that I didn't calculate the depth percentage. The depth percentage is how deep the stone needs to be compared to the face size. And if you calculate that percentage, you can avoid having a window. So what happened was, I cut the largest face possible, but I didn't have enough space to cut a perfect pavilion. So the angles come down almost all the way, and then there's this area right at the bottom that is a complete window. Now this ended up being a pretty cool piece because it actually, instead of just being a Q-lit area, what it has instead is the original rind from the outside of the corundum boule. So if you look at it, even without magnification, you can see that there are wavy lines from the outside of that synthetic corundum boule. Now this is valuable to me and valuable to you because it reminds us that whether you're working with expensive rough or inexpensive rough, if you want to cut a perfect stone and maximize the light return of your stone, you need to know how much depth needs to be in your rough before you start cutting. Otherwise, you go and you spend a lot of time cutting the face of the stone and then you run out of space for the pavilion. So that is time and rough material that is wasted. How can you calculate the depth percentage? The narrowest face of the stone determines the depth and also the refractive index of that rough. So the size of the pavilion on this synthetic corundum is going to be different from something with a lower refractive index like goshenite. If you want to skip the drama, then you can use Justin K. Prim's The Secret Teachings of Gem Cutting and look at his diagrams. For each diagram, he has a high refractive index diagram and a low refractive index. And this will give you all of the angles you need to cut your stone properly for the gem material. Now those are the angles, not the depth percentage. So some of this as a new cutter you're not going to know, but as you cut more stones, you're going to get an intuition for how deep the stone needs to be. If you want to actually apply math, then you can look at depth percentages and make a little bit of a study for that. If I'm cutting corundum, how much of a depth percentage do I need in order to get an unwindowed stone? If I'm cutting goshenite or aquamarine, what kind of a depth percentage do I need to avoid a windowed stone? Thinking about that depth percentage is something that we need to have in the back of our minds when we buy rough. If you're buying expensive rough, when you evaluate the potential stone that can come out of that rough, depth percentage is one of the things you need to keep in mind. Where do I put my table? Is there enough depth here to make a primo gemstone? Or do I need to pass on this gem? There are a lot of big face but overly flat stones out there in the market. And if you're thinking of that stone as coming out as one perfect gem, but it can't be, then you're going to lose money. If you make a different calculation saying, well, maybe I get 2, 3, or 4 gemstones out of this rough, you make your calculation on the value of those stones, and then you decide whether or not to buy the actual rough. And Lord, is it not easy. But don't worry about that, because people like us are here to help you. Anyway, if you want to get a hold of me directly, head to gemshepherd.com where you can hit contact. It'll show you my email address. Otherwise, you can read blogs about investing in gemstones. Otherwise, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tell all your friends about me, and until next time, bye-bye.